Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's go. Rapid fire. We did over an hour on that part of the show. This is great. Let's do some rapid fire now. I love it.
All right. So Bill Bender from the Sporting News ranks Notre Dame as the number 8 team in the nation of the college football playoff era. Here's the point system that he used to do the ranking. You got 10 points if you won a national championship, 5 points for being in the college football playoff, 2 points for being in a New Year's Six Bowl. Then they ranked 16 through 1 AP style. So you got points for that, like winning percentage. Same deal for consensus All-Americans. They rank 16 through 1. NFL draft picks 16 through 1. And then 1 point if you got a Heisman Trophy winner, which I think is a little bit low.
I was going to say that's honestly a little low for a Heisman Trophy winner, but that's how Oklahoma
doesn't affect Notre Dame, but it's a little bit low.
Yeah.
So here's part of what he says about Notre Dame. Notre Dame belongs in the top 10 on the strength of multiple playoff appearances, 6 seasons with double-digit wins. Irish finished 4-8 in 2016, but they are 63-13 over the last 6 seasons. Only schools with better records are Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, and Clemson. Irish have slipped out of the top 10 in NFL draft picks since 2014, and Marcus Freeman led the team to 9 wins in 2022. Notre Dame marks the end of the second tier of schools on the list. There is another drop before we reach number 9. That's from Bill Bender. And Alabama's number 1. They scored 162 points. Clemson 120.5. Ohio State 108. Georgia 98.5, which really, like, their dominance has only come on in the last few years, really.
But that's like the top 4. And then there's a drop off.
Right. And then it goes from 98.5 at number 4 down to Oklahoma at number 5, 59.5. LSU 56.5. Michigan 48.5, Notre Dame 45.5, and now you've got another big drop to number 10 from Notre Dame at 45.5 to Oregon at 21, then Wisconsin, Florida, and Penn State. So what do you think about where Notre Dame ended up in all this? Is anything else that jumps out at you?
So I agree that they are a tier 2 team. I mean, you can't, unless you like put on multiple rose-colored glasses, like you can't put them in tier 1. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? But I think they do belong in tier 2. But I do think the order of tier 2 is negotiable. That's what I'll say. But I think they belong.
Well, it's not negotiable based on the point system that he came up with.
Right. And it's painful to see Oklahoma, LSU, and Michigan ahead of Notre Dame. Okay.
If you take out LSU winning a national championship, like they've cranked out some NFL talent, but you take out that national championship and they're just barely ahead of Notre Dame in that instance.
That's true.
Because they've only had the one playoff appearance so far. And obviously what boosts Notre Dame is multiple playoff appearances. I would say, like, I'm not sure, like, if I'm going to look at his list of criteria, I get most of them. But again, like, shouldn't you get more than 1 point for having a Heisman Trophy winner if you're giving, multiple points for having consensus All-Americans, which Notre Dame has had a few of, but
which is what helps them get their number up there.
Yeah, like the NFL draft picks, I get it. It's like if you have elite talent, they end up getting drafted, they turn into draft picks and that kind of thing. But, at the same time, I'm not sure what having NFL draft picks really has to do with who you are as, in the college football
as
playoff
a program.
Because
you
can be a good to a very good player and on a great team and not play in the NFL.
Sure.
So
that's
like,
true.
I'm not sure why that's a criteria in this. That would be like, if I'm going to look at, his data points and what, that would be the biggest thing for me. There should be more points for winning a Heisman. I don't know that having guys drafted into the NFL should be, a factor in this.
I do like the fact that they do take into account All-Americans, though. I do like that because All-Americans and NFL draft picks aren't exactly the same. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times to make All-American, you've got to be on a pretty decent team, right? And it's not necessarily the case for NFL draft picks. Sometimes it is. Like, if you happen to play for the Georgia defense, then that will get you drafted, obviously. So, look, I think Notre Dame is in the right tier. Again, I would argue but you can't argue the numbers. You can just argue the way that they put the numbers together, but they're a tier 2 team. They are, and that's where they belong. And so I would say of all of the ridiculous ranking systems and things that people have come up with, I would say that this is probably one of the more accurate ones.
Right.
If you're ranking programs.
Like Patrick says, we beat LSU several times. Okay, well that's true, but LSU has won a national championship and Notre Dame hasn't. And This is the top teams of the college football playoff era. The goal of, the first goal is get to the playoffs. Second goal is win the national championship. And like it or not, LSU's won a national championship much more recently than Notre Dame.
Absolutely.
But I think we're, again, like to the talent and the development and all that kind of stuff, I think where Notre Dame has been and the lack of overall draft picks really speaks to the fact that the program, has won a lot of games despite having the, truly elite guys that Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Georgia have. And that is tier 1. Those 4 teams, those are the 4 teams winning the national championships, with the exception of LSU, that one-off that they had. But, then again, like, you want to get better over the next 10 years. Well, you just keep recruiting more guys. You're going to have more guys that end up being draft picks and that whole thing. And, that's essentially what it comes down to. Just keep recruiting better.
Absolutely.
You do that, you're going to be more competitive in these games. You're going to start winning these games.
There's a lot of draft picks on Notre Dame's roster right now. I will say that. So
we'll get to the Pat Fitzgerald stuff here in just a second, because I see there's a lot of talk going on about it in the chat right now. But there are 47 days to go until Notre Dame and Navy open the season. Jason Onye wears number 47. A lot of people might not have known that because
it's such a weird number for a defensive tackle.
I know. I haven't seen much of him the last couple of years. But Jason and Justin Adamalola each had 3 sacks last season. Do you buy or sell Jason Onye topping that number this season?
I actually buy it. I think that he is going to be a breakout player. I think he's going to be more of a disruptive player than the Twins were. I just think he's going to have a chance to get in the backfield. And the only hesitation I have is that he feels like this year's version of Riley Mills last year. And Riley Mills didn't live up to the billing. He had a good year. He didn't have a great year, right? People were calling, saying he was going to have this huge breakout year. Didn't have that. But I think Jason Onye, I think the light bulb has gone on for him. I think because he was kind of a big ball of clay when he got to Notre Dame, and it was going to take some time in the weight room and from a technical standpoint, all of those things have kind of all gotten to this point. I think he surpasses it. I'm going to say he goes over the 3.
I do too. And, I think that he could even come close to, their combined production of 6 sacks. I'm not, come close to. I mean, you make a good point about Riley Mills. I think the difference that I like just watching a little bit of Jason Onye, in the spring is because of the fact that he is a little longer, but he is also really strong. And he, started off as a defensive end. He reminds you a little bit of, like Jerry Tillery, just, and I'm not trying to say he's going to be Jerry Tillery. So don't let's not, I'm just saying from the body and the strength and the fact that he does have pass rush type skills, a guy with pass rush type skills moving inside and can also be disruptive in there. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think he'll get at least 3 sacks, if not more this season.
Yeah, he's going to have a big year. And I think a lot of that has to do with the linebackers getting better this year, with, some of the other talent that's on the defensive line. I just think he's going to have an opportunity to benefit not only from his own talent, but from the talent around him.
Right. So the breaking news that has happened just within the last few minutes here, Pat Fitzgerald fired at Northwestern days after details surfaced alleging graphic instances of hazing within the program, according to multiple reports. They were initially going to just suspend him without pay for 2 weeks. They have made the move to fire him. The Daily Northwestern student newspaper is the outlet that broke this story. So According to multiple reports, Pat Fitzgerald is out. What do you think, Vince?
Based on everything that I've read and the information that I have at my fingertips right now, obviously Northwestern has more information than you and I do. Let's just be obvious about that, right? But this day and age, if there's even a hint of impropriety, you're not gonna save your job. Like, that's just not going to happen. Whether he knew about it or not, he's the easy scapegoat at Northwestern. Now, I will say that if he didn't know about it, that's almost as big of a problem.
Like, it speaks even more. Yeah,
exactly. Like, I feel like he knew about it, because I don't know how he couldn't know about it. He's been coaching there since 2006. You're telling me that things happen in that program that he doesn't know about? I got a hard time with that. I really do.
Yeah, exactly. Gosh, seemed longer than 2006, but you're right. I mean, but that is 17 years. He's been there for a long time. And there are multiple players, since this report has come out, multiple former players coming out and saying he absolutely knew about it, and they're talking about all this. And you just, I think you're absolutely right. If he did know about it, you can't let that kind of stuff happen. If he didn't know about it, and this kind of stuff is as widespread as they're saying, it speaks even worse of you.
Yeah,
I think. And it's just, I thought hazing was out a long time ago. Like, it's one thing to make the freshmen carry a little bit of extra equipment and stuff like that. But
I don't have a problem with that.
To do this, I don't either. But to do the stuff that they're talking about having these guys do, and like, you see people who've been trying to defend him on Twitter, there's like, well, that's not the Pat Fitzgerald I know. Are you really going to tell me that you don't know somebody who's been one person, when their public persona, and there's somebody completely different when the doors are closed? Right. I mean, come on. And so it's a shame, but
it is.
You can't, that kind of stuff can't happen today.
Yep. Completely agree. And like I said, even if he didn't know about it, he's the leader. You're the leader. You're the guy in charge. And if this stuff happens on your watch, then you got to take the fall, man. Like, I don't have an issue with that.
Patrick says football coaches are too controlling to have him not know.
Exactly.
And that's exactly right. And, supposedly there was kind of a coded little, like he would do something, and, that like was kind of a
clap
signal
over the head or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
There's no way. There's no way. I'm sorry. There's no way.
Yeah. All right. So fill in the blank. Cincinnati Reds rookie Elly De La Cruz stealing second, third, and home in succession against Milwaukee this weekend was blank.
Terrible baseball played by the Milwaukee Brewers. I watched the replay, because obviously I'm not watching Reds Brewers games, right? So I watched the replay. Legitimate steal of second. Beat the throw. Great job, right? Then there's another pitch. Then on the next pitch, he steals third. The reason he steals third is because the third baseman is playing where the shortstop plays. It's like the mini shift, because you got to have two guys on either side of the base, and I get that. But they basically have a shift on. There's no way that the third baseman can even get there. So there's not even a throw to third. I mean, look, great heads-up play by De La Cruz. Don't get me wrong. But they basically gave him third base. They gave him third base because they're not even covering. Like, the third baseman didn't even move. He didn't even take one step towards third base when De La Cruz took off for third. I mean, bad. And then the pitcher takes the ball, turns his back, and just starts walking back to the mound. And De La Cruz is already halfway off of third base because they're not holding him on, because the third baseman's still playing shortstop.
Right.
And so he turns his back.
He just takes off.
He only had 45 feet to go.
It was a little league steal of home. Like,
it was embarrassing is what it was. Like, total laziness on the part of the Brewers.
He stole 3 bases on 2 pitches.
Yeah.
Just 3 bases on 2 pitches.
Look, again, it's a heads up play by De La Cruz. I give him all the credit in the world, but it was pure laziness and analytics that got the Brewers into this mess in the first place.
Right. That's exactly right. Like teams are getting away from analytics, and just what you said, analytics stuck him where, it's like a third baseman who doesn't know how to think for himself because somebody's told him, well, you got to stand 15 feet away from third base. And he never even thought about going over there. Once a guy just stole third base to try to cover. And then, like I say, he steals 3 bases on 2 pitches.
He was halfway off of third base when the pitcher got the ball returned to him from the catcher.
Jesse did something like that in middle school. Like he didn't steal the first 2 bases, but he was at third base and he's like, and I was coaching, like third base, and he goes, can I go here if I get, my spot? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so same thing, he starts leading off third, the pitcher throws a pitch, catcher throws it back to him, pitcher turns his back and starts walking, back across the mound. Jesse takes off for home and just steals home. It's like, it's basically, a little bit different, but that's essentially
pretty much the same thing.
Take advantage of guys who weren't paying attention. It was beautiful. I mean, like this guy has obviously burst onto the scene, and he is just a great athlete. And like every time he steps to the plate or he's out there on the field, he's just doing something, flashing that athleticism that he's got. Did you
see
player,
that,
man?
When they were playing the Nationals? I don't know if it was this recently or not, but they
with the tried to check the bat stuff.
Yeah, was that recently? I just saw the video today.
Last week. It was last week. Yeah,
they're checking because he like ground out the nozzle or the end of the bat or whatever. Which I don't see how that helps you in any way. It's not like it was court. They zoomed in on it and he just like kind of filed it down or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, okay, fine, I won't use this bat. Boom, second deck shot. Like
right.
And then he turns around. Did you see what he did? He turns around. He points at the bottom of the bat. Oh, it was fantastic. It was great. It was perfect. I loved it.
I know.
It was great.
Kind of guy that everyone wishes they had on their team, pretty much.
Seriously, yeah. No doubt.
Fill in the blank. The Major League Baseball draft started last night, and it's blank. They held the draft inside the Seattle Seahawks Lumen Field.
They are really trying to turn the MLB draft into like the NBA or the NFL draft, which is never going to happen because the baseball draft is way too long.
Just not
way
the same
too long.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was the case, by the way, because I've always, when the draft rolls around, first of all, it's in the middle of the season, which is a terrible timing for the draft. And
but
I realize why they do it.
Because it used to be in June, like right before, like for a while it was like right before super regionals, and then like it was during super regionals, and then it was right before the College World Series. They finally I kind of like them making it part of All-Star Weekend. Personally.
Yeah. I mean, you might as well, because I know why they have to do it now, so that they get these guys into rookie ball and they get to play the fall league and they get to do all that stuff. So you can't really do it in the off season because you can't have these college guys waiting around and so I understand why they have to do it in the middle of their season, which no other sport has to do. But it's so stinking long that I always just look at the recap. You know what I mean? Like I'm not watching the draft live for baseball
because they're not long. They're not like NBA or NFL
where they're going to make an instant impact.
First round, like where you don't know most of their names.
Absolutely,
they're either high school guys and not enough. Like if you're if you're a fan of the SEC, obviously Paul Skeens and Cruz. The guys from LSU who went 1 and 2 in the draft last night. Like everybody from the SEC knows them, or if you watched a little bit of the College World Series, you know them. But otherwise, there's just not a lot of name factor like you have in the first round of the NFL where everyone's talking about it, or the NBA with Wembanyama and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and the NBA has a little bit of what you're talking about because when they get to these overseas guys and stuff like that. But the other problem with Major League Baseball is that when these guys get drafted in the first round, you're not going to see them play for your team for years most of the time, like multiple years. So that instant gratification that everybody's looking for doesn't exist.
Not nearly the same as the NBA or the NFL.
Right. They'll sweep them up, and they'll for the Cubs, for example, they'll sweep up the guy that they drafted 13th or whatever, and they'll take him to Wrigley Field. They'll put a jersey on him. They'll do a photo shoot. And then they send him to Florida for rookie ball. Like, you're never going to hear from him for 3 years.
I just thought it was odd, though. Like, when coverage of the draft started, they're doing an aerial, and they're showing the top of the Seattle Seahawks football stadium, and it is filled with MLB draft. Like, the football field is covered with, like draft stage, and you've got ESPN set up and MLB. Like, but it's inside the football stadium. Why are you doing it inside the football stadium? You've got the place where the baseball team plays. Even if you're not going to do it inside, because I don't know if they were. I mean, they couldn't have been practicing
or
they
something.
were still playing yesterday. Like,
yeah,
why are you doing it inside the football stadium? I don't
figure out a team.
That.
Figure out a baseball team that's on the road and do it in their stadium, because not only are they on the road, but they're going to be on the road, and then there's the All-Star break.
Again,
plenty of time to set up and tear down.
If you want to do it at the same place that the All-Star game is taking place, I get it, but why not just do it like right outside the baseball, park, if you don't want to do it inside? I just thought it was very odd that you're doing the Major League Baseball draft inside an NFL team's stadium.
Agreed.
So, like, what?
It's like they're mooching off Big Brother.
What purpose did that serve? Home Run Derby is tonight. Or actually, before the Home Run Derby, we are at the All-Star break. The Home Run Derby is tonight, but All-Star break. Cubs great Fergie Jenkins says they should bring back the old timers game during the All-Star break. Do you buy or sell that?
Well, now that all the guys that I watched growing up and watched when I was younger that are my age aren't playing anymore, yes, bring back the old timers game, because I want to see those guys play some more. Yes, 100%. 20 years ago, I might have said, I don't give a crap about the old timers game. Now it's going to be all the guys that I grew up loving to watch. And so I want to watch them again.
My thoughts exactly. Like, that's because, like they do this, like the futures game and all that stuff. Nobody knows who the futures guys are. Who the old timers are. Now, might be some guys who, struggle a little bit to actually play baseball, but you're exactly right. Like, there you put, like, let the young people of today kind of get to see some of these guys.
Yes.
Maybe they never got to see, or they got to see, several years ago. I would definitely be for that. I think it would be a really good idea. And going back to what we were just talking about with the draft, Patrick says, do it at the Field of Dreams. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. Do the Major League Baseball draft out there in the middle of the cornfields of Iowa, doing it Field of Dreams. I don't know if Vince is gone or if I'm gone. Are you still there, Vince? So Vince just texted me saying that his computer is restarting. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you, though, for the super chat. Maltavius, he said, did Rudy's brother shack up with his ex-girlfriend? In the movie, he did anyway. I don't know that that happened in real life, but definitely in the movie. All right, so that's going to do it for tonight's show. Vince's computer reached its limit there at the end, and it did a reboot. And so it could be a little bit, so we're not going to wait for him to come back in because we were right at the end anyway. Thanks for being here tonight. Hit the like button on your way out, and we will be back tomorrow. Oh, there he is.
No idea what just happened.
You got back quicker than I thought you would.
Me too. I don't know what happened, but here I am. So all of a sudden my computer just went blank. I have no idea what just happened. Did you pick your home run derby champ?
I did not. Go ahead. Who you got tonight? Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso is the favorite.
He's going for a three-peat, man. Like, yeah, that's going to be tough. Like, going for a three-peat is going to be really, really hard. I just don't know that that's even realistic. I mean, so I'm going to take Vlad Guerrero Jr., young guy.
Okay.
It's all about stamina, and so I'm going to take Vlad.
I'm just going to go with Pete Alonso. He's shown, as you said, that he can do it 2 years in a row, and it seems like, some of these other guys, like, you would think that the bigger guy, like endurance might be the thing, but it seems like for these smaller guys, endurance has kind of become the thing. And big old Pete Alonso has figured out how to
Yeah.
do it. So I'll ride with Pete Alonso. He's one of 3 guys in this contest tonight that has 26 home runs going in. Mookie Betts is another, but he has some of the worst odds going in. Adley Rutschman, the Baltimore Orioles rookie, his dad is going to be pitching to him tonight.
Oh,
so that's going to
okay.
be pretty cool.
I do think that like the storylines about who's pitching and like those are some fun storylines during the All-Star break. I dig that kind of stuff.
Right, like when Chuck Ristano pitched to Trey Mancini
Yes.
a few years back. Notre Dame
Friggin'
pitching,
awesome.
former Notre Dame pitching coach. Yep. All right, well, you got back just in time to wrap things up. So we will talk to you tomorrow. Hit the like button, subscribe, rate, review, and we will talk to you then on IB Nation Sports Talk.